Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mackenzie Panhands, and I work on behalf of dairy farmers in the Southeast, connecting you to dairy's delicious nutrition. Today, we are at Wright's Dairy Farm in Franklinville, North Carolina, and y'all are in for such a treat because your dairy farmer and tour guide today, Jason Wright, is going to give you the behind-the-scenes look at how their dairy farm operates. And then Paige Garland at Homeland Creamery will show us how the cow's milk is processed and ultimately sold at your local grocery store. This tour is being held through Zoom and live streamed to Facebook and YouTube. If you are joining us on Zoom, you can use the Q&A feature to submit questions to the farmer throughout the tour. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, please put them in the chat or the comments, and we will ask the farmer as many as we can get to. We do want this to be as interactive as possible, so please use these features to communicate with us today. All right, Jason, can you kick us off and tell us a little bit about your farm?
Yeah. Welcome to Wright Farms. We are a family dairy that we currently operate here in central North Carolina. We have the dairy, we have a poultry farm. We also have, we do all our row crop and a lot of hay and raise a lot of the feed that we feed our animals. So here we are in the dairy barn. We're standing in the feed lane here, and you can see the cows are getting to eat. So we keep fresh feed out for them every day. They have access to feed 24 hours a day along with clean water. So what we feed here is corn silage that we raise here on the farm. That's about half of the ration. And the other half is either corn or barley that we raise here on the farm. And we also have to purchase soybean meal, citrus pulp, wet corn gluten, and some hominy as well. And all that totals up to be about 100 pounds of feed per cow per day. And then, of course, they have access to clean, fresh water, and a cow consumes about 40 gallons of fresh water a day. So our barn here is a tunnel ventilated barn, and that's so in the hot summer here in central North Carolina, we can keep our cows good and cool when we reach the warmer temperatures. As it gets warmer, we also have misters we can turn on and cool them with cool water as well. So our barn is split in three main milking groups. One of them is a pack barn, and that's where the cow kind of can leisurely lay wherever they like over on the clean shavings. And the other two groups are freestall groups, where each cow kind of has their individual bed that they can go and come as they please to. We like the free stalls for the cows that like those stalls. It uses a lot less shavings per a cow, and you're able to keep a cow a lot cleaner in a free stall versus a bedded pack. But the bedded pack is nice for the cows that don't lay in the free stalls. It just takes more shavings to keep them as clean as what we'd like to have them. Our goal here is to keep our cows very clean so we can keep a good clean milk to put into the stores. We do scrape our lanes twice a day. Keep where the cows eat very clean as well. And we do practice all the guidelines set forth by the FARM program, which is Farmers Assuring Responsible Management, that is created by the National Dairy Milk Producers Association as well.
Awesome, Jason. Well, thank you so much. It really does seem like cow comfort is definitely a priority on your farm. Can you tell me about how many cows you milk?
Right now, we're milking about 185 cows.
Awesome. Okay. And then what is the primary breed on your farm?
Holsteins is the primary breed, and we do have a few Jerseys and Brown Swiss mixed in as well.
Very good. It looks like a couple Holsteins there, the black and white Chick-fil-A cows, if you will. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and head to our next stop on the tour. That's going to be our milking parlor. And while Jason is making his way to the parlor, we'll go ahead and dive into our first poll question. Jason did talk about all the practices they have and they implement to make sure their cows are comfortable, and veterinary care is one of those practices. So here with our first question, how often does the veterinarian come out to the farm? Do you guys think it's daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly? And you can see that picture there of that veterinarian that is covered in manure. So it's not always a pretty job. All right, about 50% of you guys said monthly, and right behind it was weekly. Very good. So the vet does come out to the Wright's farm every month, and this is for preventative care. So during these visits, the vet will perform what we called herd health checks, and that includes giving vaccinations, of course, to only cows that are sick, performing pregnancy checks, which you can see in that video there. She is ultrasounding a cow to check on the calf and make sure it's growing properly. The vets will also assist nutritionists. You can see in that middle picture there, that is a feed wagon that is mixing up a ration for a group of cows. And the vet will just make sure that the rations are perfectly formulated for each group of cows based on their age, weight, and if they're producing milk or not. And of course, vets also respond to emergencies if those do arise. So it does look like Jason had made it to the milking parlor. Jason, can you explain what kind of milking parlor you guys have?
Yes, we have a double 6 herringbone milking parlor. We built this about 10 years ago, so we can milk 6 on each side, and just one guy runs the parlor at a time. And we have automatic takeoff, so the guy, he comes through here and sanitizes each teat and gets them as clean as possible, and then attaches the milker. And when the milk flow slows down to a certain rate, the milker detaches on its own, and then he would post dip that teat so it'd be good and clean for the next milking that would be 8 hours later. So each cow will only spend about 12 minutes at the most in the milk parlor. It takes only about 3 or 4 minutes to actually get the milk out of the cow with the milker attached, and the rest of the time she's in here is spent getting in and out of the parlor, of course, and then getting the udder good and clean and ready for the milking process to happen. So he can milk about 50 or 60 cows an hour. We try to keep our groups small where the cows don't have to wait very long to get milked, and we allow them to stay out in the barn where they're free to eat, drink, or just lay down and take a break.
I would like to be signed up for that life. Can you tell us about how much milk your average cow produces in a day?
Right now, our average cow produces about 7 to 8 gallons a day. So about 2 to 3 gallons per milking.
Okay, awesome. And then what happens if a cow does get sick? Is she milked with the rest of the milking herd?
No, if a cow's sick, it's separated out to a different group out in the barn, and they are milked separate, and that milk is never put into our pipeline to be sure we never have any cross-contamination with our milk. We keep those cows separate, but we do treat cows if they do get sick.
Okay, great. And then does a cow give milk all the time? As in, like, after she has a baby, will she just continue to produce, or how does that process work?
So we try to calve a cow in when she's 2 years old with her first calf. And then our goal is for them to have a calf each year after that as well. So they'll come into the barn, and we'll milk them about 60, 70 days, and then we'll try to get them pregnant, and they'll continue to be milked until they're about 60 days before they're going to have their calf. At that time, we're going to turn them dry, and they'll just go out on the nice green pasture and kind of take a break and get ready to have the next calf.
Okay, great. Well, we will go ahead and head to our next stop on the tour. That's going to be the tank room. Jason, you mentioned that each of your cows is producing roughly 7 to 8 gallons of milk per day, and you're milking them 3 times a day. So that's a whole lot of milk. Can you tell us a little bit about where all that milk is stored before it gets sent to the processing plant?
Absolutely. So we from the parlor, it gets pumped over to the 2 stainless steel tanks here, and so it'll come over, and as it enters the tank, it cools down, and we keep the milk below 40 degrees all the time, and we store the milk here into the processing plant picks it up, which they usually pick it up pretty quickly, and then the milk's processed and gets to the store within a day normally.
That's what we like to call fresh. How much milk does each of those tanks hold?
So each tank holds 2,000 gallons. And once the processor picks up the milk, the tank is sanitized and ready for the next time we start back milking to fill the tank again. And after each milking, the pipelines are also sanitized as well.
Okay, great. Well, this has been extremely interesting to see how your cows are taken care of and then the milking process. But now we're going to go ahead and transition to our next stop on the tour, which is the calves. While Jason is making his way to see those sweet babies, let's see who can answer this next question after hearing Jason explain how the milk does travel from the cow to the tanker truck. So this is going to be a true or false. Antibiotics are commonly found in the milk we drink. Do you guys think that's true, or do you think it's false? Jason did mention this as he was walking through, so let's see who is listening. False. Great job. 94% of y'all. You guys definitely were listening. So this is completely false, right? There are no antibiotics in any milk that's sold at retail. Milk is one of the most highly regulated and safest foods available. Like I did mention earlier, sometimes the cows do get sick and they must be treated with antibiotics. This is important from an animal welfare standpoint because farmers obviously never want their animals to suffer from infections that could be treated with proper veterinary care. But equally as important, if a cow is treated with antibiotics, she's immediately removed from the herd and her milk is discarded. So you can see in that middle video there, that cow is wearing a red bracelet. And this is just another reminder to the person that's milking the cows. If she does have that red bracelet on, she is being treated and all of her milk needs to be discarded. So you can see that chart there on the right side of the screen. In 2019, these were bulk tank milk samples, and 99.99% of these samples tested negative for antibiotic residues. So those samples are pooled before the milk is unloaded at the plant. And if the off chance the sample does come back positive, the milk is again immediately discarded to ensure no antibiotic residue. And you get to hear a little bit more from Paige once we head over to the processing plant, additional steps they take to make sure the milk you drink is of the highest quality. So it looks like Jason has made his way over to the calves. Jason, tell us a little bit about your calves, maybe when some of those calves were born.
So the calves we're looking at here, they're almost a month old. So the calves are born inside the barn in their own separate pen where we can really watch the mamas close in case there's any problems. We can give them assistance as needed. So once the calf's born, we're going to tag each individual calf because we're going to keep up with the identity so we'll know what genetics the calves had, because we keep all our heifers to replace the herd. And then any of the high genetic bulls, we will also keep them to pass along to other herds for them to use on their herd. So once they come out here, we like to keep them good and clean, and they get fed twice a day. So they get 3 quarts of milk twice a day. And they also have access to fresh, clean water and fresh calf grain as well. We change that out twice a day as also. And we do bed our calves every other day unless it's a real rainy period where they need it every day. We want a good, clean, dry calf in order to have a good, healthy calf.
They all look so calm and peaceful, and they are enjoying that sunshine.
Absolutely.
About how much does a calf weigh when it's born?
So somewhere around 80 to 90 pounds when they're born. And by the time they reach 3 months of age, we were wanting them to weigh 280 to 300 pounds. And that would be the point where they get taken off milk and moved out to pasture. And they'll stay on pasture until they get ready to become a mama cow and give us milk.
Okay, great. And is it very common on your farm to have twins or triplets, or is it usually just one baby at a time?
Most time just one baby at a time, but in some instances we do have twins. but very, very rarely ever have triplets.
Okay, looks like we have a question coming in here. How soon can a calf walk after it's born?
Typically within an hour or so, you'll see a calf up walking and trying to suckle its mama in order to get that first milk. But we're always sure to make sure the calf gets that first colostrum milk. It's very important for the health of the calf.
Sure. Well, great. So you did mention that a calf is going to have her first calf when she's about 2 years old. About how many calves does a cow have in a year?
One calf a year. So the gestation cycle is 9 months, very similar to a human. And so our goal is for a cow to have a calf every once a year.
Okay, great. Looks like we have a couple more questions coming in here. Can you describe those calf hutches, Jason? Does that protect the calf from the elements? Why do they live in those calf hutches?
Yeah, so these calf hutches are made by Calf Tail, and there's a lot of technology put in these calf hutches. The plastic in the wintertime is it keeps the calf very warm with the straw they lay on as well. And in the summertime, that plastic really keeps them cool and in the shade, and it really dissipates the heat very well, and that's why they have the plastic has the color it has and everything. It's a very technology advanced hutch that they've made for the dairy industry.
That's amazing. Again, another example of cow and calf comfort. So we do have a few minutes left here for Farmer Jason to answer a couple questions. So keep those coming in the chat box. We will get to them as we continue on the tour. So thank you, Jason, so much for your time today. We really appreciate you showing us your farm and your dedication to providing nutritious milk and dairy foods for all of us to enjoy. It is really amazing to see and hear how passionate you are about keeping your cows and your calves happy and healthy. We have a couple more questions here. Let's see. Do you name your calves?
Yes, all our cows are registered and they have a registered name. So yes, all the calves are named.
Okay, great. And then how long in years can a cow be productive?
Well, I think average is somewhere around 6, 7 years, but I think our oldest cow in the herd right now is 16 years old. So some of them definitely go much longer.
Great, great. And then you talked about that tag in their ear. Can you explain what that is in their ear for?
So, so the tag in the ear is a number, and it corresponds with a number that the National Holstein Association has a registration paper by, and then of course, the registration paper has their date of birth on it, their full name, and along with their pedigree, who their dam and sire is and grandparents are.
Okay. And then what do you do with your bull calves?
Well, a lot of them we do keep for breeding, and then others are kept just to raise out for beef.
Great. All right. Well, it looks like we are all out of time today for questions. Really appreciate you guys. Oh, one more question here. This is a good one. How did you get into dairy farming?
So back in the early 70s, my dad and grandpa started the dairy farm over at a different facility. And so we have kept it a family farm for nearly 40 years now. And we plan to keep it that way.
That's amazing to hear. Okay, well, just want to thank you again, Jason, for your time today. Really appreciate you giving us a tour of your dairy. It is absolutely beautiful, and it looks like a beautiful day out there with the sun shining. So now that Jason has done an incredible job of showing us the milk process from cow to bulk tank, we are going to head over to Homeland Creamery, where Paige will walk us through how the milk from the Wright's dairy is processed. Take it away, Paige.
Let's head into the processing room to see where the milk is pasteurized. There are various ways to pasteurize milk. In our facility, we use a process called vat pasteurization. And vat pasteurization is where we use vats like these to bring the raw milk into the facility, and we use temperature and air to create an environment that cooks or pasteurizes the milk. This is killing bacteria, making sure that the milk is safe to drink. The vats use a certain temperature and a certain period of time to formulate that optimal pasteurization process. After the milk is pasteurized, it's pulled over into a machine called a homogenizer. The homogenizer is what keeps the milk from separating from skim milk and cream. So once a dairy product has been homogenized, the cream is going to stay consistent throughout the product, so it won't separate, much like cream line milk. After the milk has been homogenized, it goes through a plate cooler, and the plate cooler uses ice cold water on one side and runs the pasteurized hot milk through the other side. So water never touches the milk, it's just used to cool the milk down, much like you would not want to put a hot bowl of soup into your refrigerator. So you would want to cool it down before you put it into the refrigerator. After it leaves the plate cooler, it goes into a holding tank, and that is where we will hold it temporarily until it is brought over by another series of pipes to our filling area. At this station is where the jugs get put on the line. They get dated and stamped for a quality reason. They get labeled. They travel around on the conveyor system after they're labeled and dated and go over to the filling area. Each jug has been placed carefully on, and they all are part of this system, making sure that labels are even and on correctly. We can kind of keep an eye on each of the products. As they're being filled, they have little rubber boots that fill the product, so they know that once the jug is full, it will stop filling it. It comes on around the filler, gets a cap, goes through a clean off station to the end of the conveyor where it's placed into a crate so that it's ready to go into the main walk-in cooler. This is also the process where employees can inspect the milk, make sure that labels weren't missed and caps are on properly to make sure that the quality is exactly like it needs to be. Once the stack of milk has been placed onto the hand truck, it's wheeled into a enormous refrigerator. So this is all refrigerated space that we keep up with the temperature, make sure that it's cold as it needs to be so that the milk is good to go until it's ready to go on the truck. In the walk-in cooler, everything is separated by flavor, so we can know where each product is and which date each product has. We have a first in, first out rotation, so we're making sure that what was made has been sold in the correct order so it's not wasted. After the milk has been taken to the walk-in refrigerated area, customers will call in and place their orders of which dairy products they want, and from that point we can formulate a loading list as to what goes on each truck, and we load those trucks with the appropriate products, and then we can deliver them to the various customers, to their retail stores, to their coffee shops, bakeries, child care facilities, and that's how we get the milk from bottling to the actual customer for their retail stores. Another fun part of the processing area is the ice cream side, and in our facility we make a plain mix, which is got some cream, some sugar, some milk, and it's a plain base, it's unflavored, and we make that on the processing side and then bring it over to the ice cream side where they can determine which flavor to make that into. So lots of different things go into the ice cream side. It's still a refrigerated ice cream base. It's brought over into 2 tanks that we use, 2 batch freezers like this one. So we can make small batches at a time, and we can change the flavor if we want to make a certain amount of vanilla one day, and then we want to switch it up and start making butter pecan or chocolate. We can change without having to make large amounts at one time. So these batch freezers will make like a smooth ice cream consistency, and then we can immediately, once that comes out of the machine, can take it into a walk-in freezer, which will continue to freeze the ice cream. Once we have the ingredients in the batch freezer, we can decide, depending on which flavor we are making, how long it needs to freeze. It also adds a certain amount of air into the product. So when it comes out, it's a little runnier than regular ice cream. But that's so that it will fill into the container. We can hand mix in any ingredients that particular flavor requires. After the ingredients are mixed in and all the ice cream has been pulled out of the machine, it then gets taken into the deep freezer where it can freeze pretty rapidly. That helps to not form ice crystals and make the ice cream icy. If it can freeze pretty quickly after it comes out of this batch process. As soon as the ice cream is taken into the ice cream freezer, it can freeze pretty rapidly, and then it's ready to go on to, again, the various trucks that take them to retail stores or to ice cream shops where it is served to other customers.
Okay, Paige, we have a few minutes left for questions about the milk processing. First one we have here is, what is pasteurization? Can you describe that process for us?
So with pasteurization, it was created to be able to make milk last and to give it a longer shelf life. So by pasteurizing, we are reducing the bacteria count that is a common thing found in milk, and we're able to make it last longer on the shelf. We transfer it to other stores, and so by cooking the milk, it's able to last longer than fresh raw milk would be.
So when you say that they heat up the milk to pasteurize it, does that change any of the nutrients in the milk?
The nutrition is exactly the same. It's got the same protein, same minerals, vitamins. It doesn't affect, it could potentially affect flavor slightly, but as far as a nutritional standpoint, it does not affect it at all. It just gives us a safer option to be able to enjoy milk.
Another buzzword in milk processing is homogenization. Can you explain what that process entails?
Yes, so a lot of times folks get pasteurization and homogenization confused. So pasteurization is the process of cooking the milk, making it safe to drink. Homogenization is keeping the milk from separating. If you are to milk a cow and have raw milk, put it in your refrigerator, it's going to separate. The top part is going to be cream, the bottom part is going to be skim milk. If you were to shake it, it's going to be whole milk. So when we put the raw milk through this process of homogenizing it, it makes it consistent where all of the cream is consistent throughout the milk and it won't separate.
There seems to be a lot of confusion around the different types of milk, like skim, 2%, or whole milk. Do you add water to the milk to reduce that fat level, or how do you get that skim milk?
In order to get skim milk, we just take the raw milk, pasteurize it like we normally would with all the other flavors, and we just take the cream out of the milk. So there's nothing added to the skim milk to make it not have fat. It's only taking the cream out of the milk.
Do all the various fat levels contain the same nutrients?
The biggest difference in the different flavors of milk that you find in the grocery store, from whole milk to low fat, 2%, 1% skim, it doesn't matter as far as like protein and vitamins and nutritional facts. It's more of the fat content, how much cream. A lot of times we use fat, low fat, and cream interchangeably in a creamery. But that is strictly the amount of fat that is found in that particular flavor.
When I look at the nutrition label for milk, I see sugar listed. Does milk have sugar added during the processing?
Lots of foods have natural sugars like various fruits, and milk is no exception. It just has a natural sugar also, but there's no sugar added to white milks.
Okay, Paige, can you tell us what type of testing is done to ensure the safety of milk?
So milk is one of the most highly tested foods in America for quality, and it is tested from the dairy side and it is tested from the creamery side. So before it even leaves the dairy farm, it is tested for antibiotics, and once the tankers pick it up and take it to the creameries, it is tested again at the creamery level, and it's been pasteurized. It's tested from a lab standpoint, again, for quality. There are state and federal inspections that go on for milk testing, and so it is a super safe product to consume, and a great way to get those added nutritional values that milk can provide. From the process of milking the cow all the way till the milk is sat on the retail shelf, it has never been touched by a human. It comes straight from the cow's udder through various pipes into refrigerated tanks, and this whole process is over a couple days period, from the time that the cow is milked until the time that it's on the shelf. It can be as quickly as 1 to 2 to 3 days in some cases. And even on large farms and large creameries, those brands use those dairy farms in that area. For example, the Southeast uses those dairy farms even though they have big, large names across the country. It's more efficient from a transportation and cost standpoint to get that milk to those various places as quick as possible for shelf life and for quality purposes.
Well, that's all the time we have for questions. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I want to extend a huge thank you to Jason Wright and his family for all their hard work bringing us this live tour of their dairy farm today. And another huge thank you to Paige at Homeland Creamery for giving us a behind-the-scenes look at what happens to the Wright's milk after it leaves the farm. Now, don't forget that at the Dairy Alliance, we are your resource for all things dairy. I encourage you to visit our website, which is constantly updated with the latest dairy research, recipes, and news. You can also meet more of our incredible dairy farm families across the Southeast. So visit us at thedairyalliance.com and take advantage of the resources brought to you by the generosity of our hardworking dairy farm families. Thank you so much for joining us. We are wishing you a dairy good day.